Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Industry Matters podcast presented by VGM. Each episode, we feature conversations with leaders, innovators, advocates, and everyday people who are working to strengthen patient care, support business operations, and shape a sustainable future for the DME/POS, CRT, home access, and broader home healthcare space. At VGM, we believe that knowledge moves the industry forward. Our goal is to give you real insights you can use, whether that's navigating industry challenges, improving patient care, or strengthening your business.
Hey, good morning to the entire U.S. Rehab membership, also our VGM members out there. I want to welcome you to this podcast. We've got two distinguished guests with us today, Javier Nunez from MK Battery and also Jason Smith from MK Battery.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. Good morning, Javi. Good morning, Jason. And if you guys don't know, Javi's from Texas, so he's a Texan just like myself. And then Jason's out in Southern California, and I really do get to enjoy the time to go out to Southern California because my daughter lives there now. So Jason and I spend quite a bit of time when we're together there and have some really great food. But anyway, I do want to make some formal introductions. My name is Ted Metcalf. I'm part of the CMA division, our Clinical Mobility and Accessibility group for VGM Associates. And our focus really is on the U.S. Rehab side, also OPGA, which is our Orthotics and Prosthetics division, and also our Home Access Live at Home. So we represent that part of VGM. So Javier Nunez, Director of Business Development for MK Battery. He was previously at Rolko, and Javi and I spent a lot of time together on the road. And also Jason Smith, Vice President of Sales and Marketing for MK Battery. So welcome, guys. I really appreciate you guys joining us and being a part of this podcast for our membership.
Thank you, Ted.
Thank you.
Well, let's get into it. When we were looking at this about 4 or 5 weeks ago, we said, hey, we need to do something to get the message out and talk about, batteries, talk about power distribution, and then really talk also about the alignment that you guys have with Rolko USA and talk about wheelchair parts and accessories. And I want to dive into that. But before we begin, I first off, I want to say thank you to MK Battery. You guys have done an incredible job. You guys have made huge investments in property, plant, and equipment. I know you're U.S. based, East Penn's there in Eastern Pennsylvania. I know you've got branches and warehouses throughout the United States. But what I really find admirable about you guys is you guys support the industry. You guys are part of NCART, which is the National Coalition of Assisted Rehab Technology, and you guys are also part of A Home Care. And we've got a lot of wins against us in this industry. Everything from reimbursement to payer networks, et cetera. And I know our members are looking for ways to save money. They want to be highly efficient. They want to be very cost conscious, so to speak, right? In wheelchair parts and also batteries. And I know you guys fit the mold, incredibly well. And I want to explore that more. But Jason, if I could just pick on you for a little bit, talk to me about what's the future hold for batteries? What does that look like, and where are you guys making investments, whether it be people and just, the future of batteries? What does that look like for our membership for US Rehab?
The future of batteries is really probably different technologies that don't necessarily exist in the HME industry today. But the current technologies are really the best value for the provider from the standpoint that they're almost 100% recyclable. And initial cost is not extreme. Our genuine gel products are the premier product in the market and have been for a long time, used by all the equipment suppliers as well as a lot of the providers in the market. It's really the best overall value for the provider from the standpoint that there's fewer replacement in those chairs. So you're talking about 2 times the cycle life of traditional AGM batteries. So that still is going to be the best overall value, a little higher initial cost, but longevity is going to be there. It's expensive to go out and do a repair prematurely. We did a TCO several years ago where we looked at everything from just turning the key in a van to sending a tech out to analyze and assess the problem. And really, there's value in using a premium product. I think the current technologies from those standpoints are what are best for the industry. The future is probably something along the lines of a lithium type product, but there's a lot of disadvantages with those types of chemistries from the standpoint that they're not as recyclable as lead acid gel and AGM. There's transportation storage concerns with regulations, and the initial cost is higher. So when you're talking about reimbursement challenges already with current technologies, now you're having to carve out a higher reimbursement for batteries.
Right,
And I think
right.
where we're at right now is where we're going to be for a while, but I think there's a lot of value in those current products.
When you say TCO, you're talking about total cost of ownership, right?
Yeah.
When you sit, look at and analyze, what does it cost me to put some, group 22 batteries and replacement, and I I used to say this quite a bit, and I'll say it on this podcast. Cheap things aren't good, and good things aren't cheap, right? And I know that doesn't necessarily always equate, but I think we can all agree that there's value in having a high quality product. And to your point, you're right, Jason. To start a van these days, I always tell people, and I think Javi, you and I talked about this when we were in El Paso not too long ago. We were talking to some of the U.S. Rehab members out there. It's $100 to start the van, just to start the van and drive off the lot, right? To go out and do a battery replacement. And we all know that there's not enough margin to make that happen. It's extremely tough. And when you're buying a less quality, a less expensive battery, I tell U.S. Rehab members, especially ones that are really managing the service repair departments, you don't want to be in the battery replacement business. What you want to be is you want to be taking care of customers, taking care of clients, and focusing on the chairs and making sure that things are correct, and making those adjustments and repairing what needs to be repaired. Batteries, if it happens to be, sure, but you don't want to be out every 7-8 months replacing batteries, so it gets pretty expensive. Yeah, so no, thanks, Jason. I always think about what the future of what power distribution looks like. I know there's a lot of talk about lithium ion, and I don't want to dive into that, but I think there's some of that's out there, but I think we're extremely challenged in that respect, and I think we're years away. Is that fair to say on lithium ion?
Yeah, it's funny because we've been talking about this at shows, MedTrade, and some of the national shows for probably 15 years. When are you going to look at lithium? And really until the equipment manufacturers decide that's a viable product, with all these challenges of reimbursement and transportation and storage and higher initial costs, I think we're not going to see a transition. It's definitely making its way into smaller, foldable, transportable equipment where that makes sense. But in bigger equipment, bigger chairs that have more demand on the batteries, it's just it's not anything that's in the very near future.
Absolutely. Well, Javi, you're a veteran to the industry, but you're a little bit new to MK, but we all know who you are. Just in the short 4 or 5 months that you've came over from Rolko over to MK Battery, what are you hearing from customers? What are you hearing from U.S. Rehab members when you're walking in and you're talking to them about service repair efficiency and how to save money and how to have better healthy margins? What are you hearing from those members?
Well, I think it all goes back to the same challenges you touched on earlier. You have limited reimbursement. You try to find any ways to save money, and that is kind of how this conversation came about 2.5 years ago when Rolko and MK Battery decided to join together and have this distribution partnership. It's almost like we're trying to have a one-stop shop, if you will, that have parts that complement each other. You do a repair on batteries, you're going to order batteries, and most likely you're going to order parts. And with my time at Rolko, we were able to present a type of value with having Rolko parts delivered off of an MK Battery truck. Now, being on the other side of it, as a team member with MK Battery, it's great to see the changes. And what we're doing is really benefiting a lot of the members already out there. So out in the field, when we're out there talking with folks and we're traveling and we're educating our sales team on Rolko parts, we get a lot of the same questions of, how's this going to benefit me? What can we do? How easy is it? And the fact of the matter is it's very easy to order these parts. A lot of them are generic parts that folks are already ordering anyway. They're anything from tires and tubes to arm pads. And then you also have stuff that's made specifically for certain units. So it's great. There's the benefits on the member side. There's no applying for a new account. There's no having another salesperson. There's the services that we offer on the consultation side. I'm scheduling probably about at least 2 a week with different members and consulting them and educating them about the benefits of Rolko parts and cross to certain generic parts. There's challenges in the parts side of the industry right now. And we have some that are having very limited stock availability, and that's creating delays for members. And this is an alternative way of having these products that they're going to already be ordering delivered to them along with their batteries when it comes to power wheelchairs and for manual wheelchairs as well too.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I remember when this whole process started, Javi, when we were all together, I talked about El Paso, but I'll never forget that trip because we went to go see some of our, largest U.S. Rehab members based in that area. Mm-hmm. And it was pretty eye-opening, right, to understand that, there's significant savings on parts and wheelchair parts and accessories. I mean, it's significant. The challenge is, okay, well, how do we get those parts? And I think you guys have done a phenomenal job of managing that distribution network, and the relationship with MK Battery has been really, really a plus for a lot of our U.S. Rehab members. I remember the drive from El Paso to Albuquerque, and I remember you were on the phone constantly, either answering a text message or answering a phone. It was all about Rolko parts. I know the excitement was definitely building. Let me ask you this, Javi, is there any limitation that a provider, U.S. Rehab member would have on loading up any type of SKUs into the system? Is that a fairly simple task to do? Because they may not always have like a specific SKU number. Can they just load that into their software? I mean, is that pretty available, pretty quick?
It is. And the challenge really is there's some folks that are out there that are running a proprietary type software specific to their needs. There's folks that are using Brightree, Atlas and different other management softwares. As far as the challenges, I think it's just like with anything else. If you're able just to load specific part numbers in there, it may be a little bit of time up front, but once it becomes common, it'll be very easy to place orders. And again, I think a lot of the challenge has to do with creating an account, which is not necessarily the case for most of the members we speak with, given that they already have an active MK Battery account, right?
Yeah.
If they add those part numbers and the number of units they need to order on the Rolko side, and they still take advantage of a lot of the benefits that members are already having. The additional 3% with net 30 terms. There's the free delivery off the truck. There's an average of 30 to 40% from ordering parts directly from an OEM. I mean, there's a lot of benefits there. We're trying to make it as easy as possible, and that's what my primary function is here, is to help educate your members and help educate our team and get this rolling. I mean, I came from this industry. I came from a provider for 18 years who was a U.S. Rehab member, and I was able to figure out how we could save money on the back end, and any amount of money really helps.
Sure. Yeah. You talked about the part savings, right?
Right.
And part of the part savings is the shipping and handling, right?
Correct.
So there's significant shipping and handling savings on that. I mean, I can only imagine ordering from, say, an OEM, that shipping and handling could be pretty substantial. But with you guys, it's going to be a lot less expensive. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, if it's the majority of your members are going to be on a truck route delivery for their batteries. And whenever you have Rolko parts added, it could be one axle. It could be, $500 worth of products. But, you have that and it's free freight. That's great. You have something like a foam filled tire that someone's already ordering. This is already about 3 pounds.
Sure.
Most of the time you order that from an OEM or you order that from another competitor, you would probably pay about $8 to $10 handling fee and then add the freight charges for that. And then if you order 10 of them, otherwise you can have them delivered off the truck and you're already saving an initial, let's just say roundabout number or 30%. And then there's other benefits on the back end with the freight costs that you don't necessarily take into account. But absolutely,
yeah.
We're excited about it. They're complementary items, and we've seen a lot of progress and we've seen a lot of interest. You call me directly and introduce me to folks that are interested in the program, and we're more than happy to help them and educate them and guide them through incorporating these parts into their daily mix for their repair orders.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like that's happened even on a daily basis here of late, right?
Yeah.
In fact, I sent you one on a California account just
Yeah.
yesterday. So they're very interested in talking to you about how to save money in their service repair department. So it's actually pretty exciting. I wanted to talk about just briefly about your sales team. Your sales team is fully engaged, and they're great to work with. I know a lot of our regional managers and our inside member account membership managers, I should say, are very well connected with your sales team, and they seem to be very in tune with the relationship with Rolko, and it's something to talk about, right? You walk into a service repair US Rehab member, and you can talk about parts and wheelchair parts and accessories, and you can also talk about batteries. So it's pretty exciting stuff. I also wanted to make mention too that you guys have always been very supportive of our seminars that we have throughout the United States. We just got back from Minneapolis. I know you guys were there. Tampa's coming up, I believe, in a couple weeks, and I know your MK team will be there to talk about batteries and do some training and this is more technical training, obviously, but I know you guys do touch on Rolko parts. I think we got another city, Dallas, is in September. So appreciate you guys always being supportive of the education and training that we provide to our U.S. Rehab members. Jason, I want to come back to you just really quick. If you were sitting in front of a service repair manager of a U.S. Rehab, member, and you start talking about savings, what are two or three things that you would want to make sure that you leave with that particular individual? Like what would be those lasting remarks to encourage them to look at their business to try to save cash?
Yeah, I'm going to get off track for a quick second, and then I'll get right back on track. I'm a huge sports fan. As I know you guys are huge sports fans. You're a Baylor Bears guy, and Javier follows Texas State. He's a Texas State alum, which is, I think, the university from the Water Boy, if I'm not mistaken.
Ouch.
That's rough. That's rough.
But I follow mostly LA-based teams. I'm a Trojan, Laker, Raider fan. Not a Dodger fan per se, but you guys both know I went to Asia the last couple of weeks and was in Japan. So everywhere I went, it was Ohtani. And actually, they refer to him as Ohtani Shohei, so it's last name first, right? So Metcalf Ted, if you think about the sport of baseball and the idea that you touch all four bases, that's really the MK value proposition, right? So at first base, you've got our gel and AGM products that are the premier products in the industry. They're going to provide the provider the best overall value, right? Maybe a little higher initial cost with genuine gel, but fewer replacements overall, so that's going to be less expensive. And then you get to second base, and you've got our MK branded chargers, right? That range from 2 amps all the way up to 10 amps. We cover that whole range of charger products, and there's savings there. And then you touch the third base, which is really our spent battery recycling program. So our drivers delivering batteries and chargers, they're picking up the old batteries. We're paying the member for that old battery that we're picking up and recycling properly, and we're supplying paperwork that really releases them from being liable for the recycling. And then you get to home plate, and it's the parts program that we've added over the last couple of years. And there's savings there. And then if you tie that all together, it's not just the product cost, but it's the distribution costs, as you already mentioned, that we're taking out. And really, I look at it from the standpoint of they're not having to chase these items at multiple vendors. They're able to get them under one umbrella. And Javier mentioned really a one-stop shop now for the provider, which is extremely convenient. And then the value add that really, I think, differentiates us amongst other suppliers in the market, battery suppliers specifically, is our expertise in the market, our technical training, which you touched on, that we do with VGM as well. We have a CEU accredited course that we go out and provide to the providers that we do virtually. We do it in person. It's a very extensive battery technology troubleshooting training that I think saves providers money because it really educates techs on how to triage and differentiating an actual battery problem versus another issue. So there's time savings there. And you already mentioned, we support the industry. We're lobbying on Capitol Hill. We support all the associations that are fighting for better reimbursement. Those are things that other companies don't do. And I think if you look at the net cost and you factor all that in, you'd be hard pressed to find a supplier in the market that offers what we do.
Yeah.
Now, that's the long story, but
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's the partnership, right? You create the portfolio effect with all the different, products and services. You mentioned the chargers, batteries, and the parts, and so you've got the portfolio to offer, but you're also talking about the partnership. Start talking about the education and the training and really, I said it before, and you just said it, the support that you guys do for the industry, right? In-cart, home care. There's a lot of things that you guys are doing to support the industry, and we really appreciate that very much. And I think that you can't put a price tag on that, right? That's important. So, yeah, no, I agree with you. I will go back to your comment about sports, Jason. Just so you know, the Raiders are no longer in LA; they're in Las Vegas. So
I understand. I understand. They were in
But hey,
Oakland before, but
yeah,
I still
that's
think
I was actually going to let that slide, Ted, but since you pointed it
I still
out,
think of them as an LA-based team.
Well, I tell you what, you're always welcome to be a Dallas Cowboys fan. We'll take you in. So,
No, thank
I appreciate that, Jason. Javi, I'll come back to you. We'll wrap this
Yeah.
up. If you're sitting in front of a service repair manager, what are those, 2-3 things that you'd want to leave with that particular individual, for them to think about their business?
well, talking to a service repair manager, the main thing that they want to know is, do the products fit? From my experience, a lot of the hesitation comes from people saying, I don't trust aftermarket parts. I only trust OEM parts. And, we really don't like to order those. We just like to go straight to the OEM because it works, and that's fine. What a lot of folks don't understand is that Rolko's been in this industry for over 35 years.
That's right.
Their products are the OEM parts on a lot of units that are already out there in the market. Off the top of my head, there's a lot of customers from the stroller market. They provide casters for. There's complete wheel assemblies for manual wheelchairs that folks and your members are already buying. So if they talk about the quality, it is OEM quality parts. The division that we're distributing are going to be more of the generic parts that they make that are going to be specified more for the repair side. So you're getting OEM quality parts that are going to fit. We've tested them out. You're going to get the quick and easy distribution, and you're going to get the savings value. So a lot of those points are already going to be there, and that's what people want. That's what people are looking for, is to save money, make it easy to install, and not have a headache. And that's ultimately what we're trying to provide.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well said. And I've spent some time, managing a service repair department back in my previous days, and efficiency and time capture. In other words, how long does it take to do this? How long does it take to do that? That's extremely important because time is money, right? Labor is expensive. Starting a van is expensive. Insuring that van is expensive. So, you do the activity-based cost accounting and you realize, that things are not cheap. So there's significant savings out there in the CapEx side, in the capital expenditure. So batteries is one, chargers is another, and wheelchair parts and accessories. So I always encourage our U.S. Rehab members to look at their service repair department and really identify where those revenue leakages are and where is expense control, where's that opportunity to find. And you can certainly find it in the power market, the battery power market. You can also find it in wheelchair parts and accessories. So it goes without saying, it should be something that every U.S. Rehab member is looking at, not just in the new rehab aspect of their business, but also the service repair. And I applaud our U.S. Rehab members. They are notoriously passionate about servicing what they sell, and Absolutely. To the point where they will actually take on, other clients that got their chairs from other places. And so I know our U.S. Rehab members are passionate about service. So that's always great to see and hear. I'll bring this home, fellas. I do want to say that you guys are easy to do business with. You guys have great products. You got a great sales support team, both boots on the ground, as they say, and also back in Southern California. You got a great marketing team. We're excited to be partners with you. We've got a great marketing team that supports you guys. I would encourage our U.S. Rehab members to go to their member-only portal. Feel free to go through and look at the MK opportunities that are there. Feel free to reach out to myself and Javier and Jason and whoever your local regional manager is, and we're here to help and support you. And I will say, looking forward to seeing you both at Heartland. Actually, Javier, I will actually see you in a couple weeks in Dallas because you and I are going to go see some members. So looking forward to that trip. But I'm also looking forward to Heartland, which is coming up June 8th through the 10th in Waterloo, Iowa. And I know you guys have always been there. You guys have a great booth. And your booth seems to always be moving around and being very busy. And I know you guys will come in full costume for the experience at Heartland. So, but I really appreciate both of you. And yeah, looking forward to seeing you guys, here in June and at Heartland.
Absolutely.
So appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Ted. I'm looking forward to meeting more of your members at Heartland as well.
Yeah, can't wait.
Great time.
Can't wait to see your costume too at
Waterloo. Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it. All right, fellas. Appreciate it. Have a wonderful rest of the week.
All right. You as well.
Hey, thank you. Have a good one.